What's going on, y'all? Every day means every day, episode number 16. And in this video, I've got one question for you and one question only. But I really believe that if you take the time to think about the question, to answer the question genuinely, it might just give you the clarity, the direction, and the fulfillment in life that you're looking for. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name is Brandon Burns. I'm a motivational speaker and peak performance coach, and I help people live up to their potential daily, not just occasionally. I do it through a process that I call every day means every day. It's all about physical fitness, mental fitness, and most importantly, those day-to-day standards that you hold yourself accountable to, your habits, your routines, etc. If you're interested in learning more about it, check out everydaymeanseveryday.com. You can download our free ebook and get started today. But with that being said, what's this magical question that I'm talking about? I mean, I'm making it sound like it's this magical question that's going to solve all your problems. I'm not going to guarantee that much, but I do think that it's very, very much worth considering and taking the time to think about. Now, let me give you the antithesis to this question first, because a lot of people, especially in the personal development world, they love to ask questions like this. Who are you? And if they're slick with it, they'll say, who are you really? And what they mean by that is they're trying to get you to strip away all of the labels that we use to identify ourselves, especially in Western modern society. You know, when people answer that question, a lot of times they jump immediately to their job title or maybe their role in a family, right? I'm a father, I'm a mother, etc. But it's never really a definition of essence. It's never a self-concept that's deeper than what they do. It's usually more what they do, not so much who they are, right? And no wonder. I mean, who are you? I can't think of a more difficult question to ask than that. But it's a challenging question that comes up quite frequently. I remember I had a midlife crisis when I was about 22 years old. I mean, I did the whole thing 20 years early, bought the Corvette and everything, because I'd retired from the sport of gymnastics. And from the time I was 10 years old to the time I was 22 years old, my entire life and identity revolved around the sport. Everything I was thinking about, all the books I was reading, everything I was working for, 40 hours a week in the gym, it all revolved around the sport of gymnastics. And so when I retired, I'm looking around like, okay, who am I? Because I don't know anything else. Without the identity of athlete, I didn't feel like I had anything. And this is not a video just for those of you who have transitioned out of sports. It's for those of you who have made a transition out of any phase of your life. It's for those of you who maybe you're still trying to find that identity in the first place. For me, it was almost given to me. I found gymnastics at a young age, and that became all of who I was for a vast majority of my life. If you didn't have something like that, where you say, you know what, I'm an athlete, or I'm a scholar, or I'm this, or I'm that, then sometimes you might still be looking for it, and that's completely fine. But I think the greatest way to snap out of that, by the way, one of my buddies, Jamal King, he calls that PTSD, post-traumatic sports disorder. And it's so true, because without that identity, without that self-concept, it's very difficult to orient yourself in the world. You don't know which way's up, which way's down, which way's left, which way's right. You don't know what to move towards because you don't know who you are. And if you don't know who you are, then how could you possibly know what you value and what you're trying to accomplish? And so it's a very root fundamental question. And as I said, many of us are still searching for that, still looking for it. And the reason that we feel lost in life, the reason that we feel stagnant in life, is because we don't have that clear self-concept. So how do we find it? It's not by asking, who are you really? It's a stupid question. It's like the most difficult question anybody could ask. And you're not God, so I don't think you really know. But what you do know is who you're not. You know who you're not. And so that's the question I want to pose to you in this video is, who are you not? Because you know that one. You know the answer to that one. As soon as I asked you that, I would guarantee that at least a couple quick responses came up into your mind. And the reason that this is because for most of us, being able to receive information in the positive sense, receive information through affirmation, receive information through confirmation, we can almost trick ourselves out of that sometimes. Like trying to carefully define and distinguish exactly what something is very difficult. But knowing what something is not, now it's not positive affirmation, confirmation. Now it's contrast. And contrast jumps out to us. We're pattern recognition machines, you and me as human beings. That's what we do. That's what we're wired for. And so contrast sticks out to us very easily. And frequently, even if we can't define something, you see this in the sciences a lot, even if you can't specifically nail down an exact scientific definition of something, we can define it by saying what it is not. We say, okay, well, I don't really know what this thing is, but it ain't this, it ain't that, and it ain't that. Therefore, it's its own unique category of thing that's different than everything else in a similar category. That's how we make sense of things, is through contrast, not so much confirmation. And so, who are you not? Who are you not? I think a beautiful illustration of this is, of course, the statue of David, Michelangelo. I believe it was Michelangelo. Somebody correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But he got this block of marble, giant block of marble. And he didn't say, let me go to this region in Italy and get some more stone. Let me come to this region in France and get some more raw materials over here. Let me go this way and that way and get more to add to this raw ingredient, this raw block of marble, so that I can create the finished product of the sculpture. No, he didn't add anything. He said, somewhere in there is the truest essence of the finished product. How do I remove everything that is not that? That's life. That's life, right? You might not know exactly who you're supposed to be, but you know what ain't you. You know what isn't conducive to your highest potential. You know what isn't in alignment with your inner being, and you can at least eject that stuff. And that's what I would encourage you to do. My whole thing, every day means every day, is about habits. It's about consistency. It's about perseverance. It's about, can you hold yourself to a set of standards on a daily basis, not an occasional basis? And even still, I really believe that adding a positive habit to your life might increase the overall trajectory of your life by like 5% per habit. And even then, it depends on the habit. I think working out is different. I think that probably increases because it reduces all-cause mortality better than anything that the smartest people in the world can come up with. So that one, maybe you get a 50% boost. But everything else, I mean, the journaling, the cold showers, the whatever you want to do, and I believe in all that stuff, but you get maybe a 5% increase in overall trajectory of life by instilling those habits and staying religiously true to them every single day. So I'm not saying that that's not worth it. I mean, 5% over 20 years, 40 years, that adds up. But a negative habit, a habit that is so removed from the highest version of yourself. I mean, let's take an extreme example. Let's just say you're methed up on the weekends. Extreme example, drug use. You do all the right things. You do the cold showers, you do the reading, you do the prayer, the meditation, the workout. You do everything right. But on the weekends, you cracked out. That's not a negative 5% trajectory in life. It's not negative 50%. That's like a negative 500% if you stay alive. And so even life itself is a reflection of this concept. It's not necessarily about add, more. This is a very American westernized philosophy. More is better. More money, more access to relationships, more bigger houses, faster cars. And again, there's nothing wrong with this stuff, but it ain't going to fix anything that's fundamentally broken. It's not going to fix anything if you have things that are dragging you down. It's like another beautiful illustration, actually. I completely forgot about this until this moment. Hot air balloons. And you'll never catch me on a hot air balloon, by the way, because I learned recently they don't have steering wheels. You just, all you can control is the altitude. You just go up and down. And then based on which way the wind is blowing, the wind blows different directions at different altitudes. So if you need to steer, then you just go up to where you think the wind is blowing the way you want to go. That sounds like gambling to me. I'd rather play blackjack than go play with my life in a hot air balloon. That just is stupid to me. So you're never going to catch me in there, but it's a beautiful illustration. When they're ready to take off in a hot air balloon, they gas it up and they have the flames going and the gases expand and then the balloon becomes buoyant. When it's on the ground, it already has enough buoyancy to take off and to take flight. It's tethered to the ground. The way that they actually take off when they're ready is not by continuing to add more and more fuel, to continue to expand, add, make it lighter and lighter and lighter in the air. That's not what they do. They just untether it. They remove the thing that's pulling it down. They remove the thing that's keeping it grounded. And then once that's gone, it already had enough in it to fly. What I'm saying is you already have enough in you to fly. You just got to remove the stuff that's tethering you to the ground. The statue of David already existed. We just had to remove all the junk that was surrounding it, right? Now, how do we do it? 3 ways, okay? There's 3 ways that we do this. Number 1, if you do something and you only do it because you're asked or required to do it, that's a good indication that it's not who you really are, right? Remember, the question is, who are you not? So we're talking about your bad habits, and we're talking about your behaviors that are not in alignment with your most genuine, most authentic self. Because success is typically found at your most authentic. That's what makes you one of one. You get yourself in a category of one by being hyper genuine, hyper authentic. And there's a set of skill sets and a combination of skill sets that only you can really maximize to take it all the way there, to be hyper successful in whatever way that you define success. But you've got to remove the stuff that keeps you from it, that separates you from that version of you, from that true essence of yourself. So again, we got to make an audit here. We got to look at our life. We got to look at our behaviors and say, what am I doing that's not a reflection of the true me? One way to know that is you only do a particular habit, action, or behavior when you're asked or required to do that. Now, I'm not saying that I don't believe in delayed gratification. I'm not saying I don't believe in sometimes you got to bite the bullet and just work and do a job you're not passionate about. I understand there's a part of life where that's necessary and required. But be aware of it so that eventually you can work towards not doing the stuff that you only do when you're asked or required to do it. Like for me, I read books about psychology and philosophy just because I think it's interesting, right? So that's a good indication that that's the real me, right? Math books, who are you not? I'm not a math genius. It's not a gift that I had. It's not something that I enjoy. I would never do it unless I was required to do it for school, work, etc. Okay, so that's one way that you can know, hey, this is probably a behavior or a pattern that I would be better served to cut off because it's not true to my genuine self. Number 2, you do it and it feels counterintuitive to your constitution. We've all been in a situation where maybe you're at a party. You didn't really want to go to the party, and you show up anyway because all your friends were going to be there and they were going to dog you out if you didn't go. And you kind of felt obligated to be there. And you have an out-of-body experience. Split second, you're sitting there and you're like, God, why am I here? Like, this is stupid. Why am I here? That's an indication that is not really you. It's not in alignment with your true self. Whenever you have that feeling of, I just feel like this goes against, I just don't feel like I belong here. And there's a difference, right? Because you know the difference. When you really do belong, but you don't feel worthy of it. I'm not talking about imposter syndrome. I'm talking about you just sitting there objectively looking at the situation like, bro, this is stupid. I shouldn't be here. That's an indication that that's one of those things that you got to chip away. That's the marble, the excess marble that you got to chip away in order to get to the statue and the beauty and the glory that's actually underneath all of that. Okay, last one here. When you do it and your life doesn't get any better, we all, I think, intuitively know, okay, here's a habit, here's a routine, here's a behavior, here's a way of being that when I am this, when I do this, my life gets better. Point blank, period. For me, gymnastics is one of those things. I still train to this day because I notice that I'm happier, I'm healthier, I have a more positive outlook on life when I'm training. That's just something I was meant to do. It's a part of who I am at my truest essence. I don't do it because other people think it's cool. I don't do it so that I can, have better prospects of commentating the Olympics one day because they'll say, oh, he's still involved in the sport. Like, there's nothing in it for me other than it just makes my life better. I just feel better. I feel more like me when I do it, right? That's one of those indications that is your true self, or that's in alignment with your true self. So if you don't feel that, if you're doing something consistently, habitually, in a routine, and you look back and you're like, I really don't think my life is any better at all because of this, it's probably not in alignment with who you really are. And this is where, even in my space, I teach people to optimize habits. I teach people peak performance, peak productivity, etc. It gets kind of weird because a lot of people say, oh, well, I've got this 17-step morning routine, and it's, good for you. You implemented discipline. You implemented standards. That's a good first step. But if you're doing things just because somebody else told you that's what you should be doing, and it's not moving the needle in your life, and you don't feel more connected to your true self because of it, what kind of productivity are you hoping to get? Like your max productivity, max happiness, max fulfillment, max contribution to the world, maximum success is going to be when you're at the most you. It's not going to be when you're 90% you and 10% YouTube gurus. It's going to be when you're at 100% you. That's when you're going to have the most success. So yes, implement the standards, implement the habits, implement the disciplines, but be conscious of it. Check in on yourself. Does this feel like I'm moving towards a version of me that, like, yes, this is all of who I am. This is the unleashed version of me, my potential. I can feel myself eking closer and closer to it. If you don't feel that, cut it out. Cut it out. Because that's not, like, if you're not David Goggins, you might not want to go run 100 miles. A, it ain't good for you. B, if that's not who you really are, then you're just faking it anyway. What kind of success comes from that, right? So, 3 things. Number 1, if you only do it because you're asked or required to do it, it's probably not naturally aligned with who you really are. Okay. Number 2, if you do it and it feels counterintuitive to your inner constitution, that probably ain't you. And then last but not least, if you do it and your life doesn't get noticeably better, that's probably not the real you. Chisel that stuff away. Get rid of everything that's standing in between you and your highest potential. You don't have to add stuff to get to your highest potential. You don't have to add stuff to be who God created you to be. He already gave you what you need. But you do have to get rid of anything that stands in your way along the process to doing that. All right. Remember, if you want to learn more about how to optimize your habits, your routines, your physical fitness, and your mental fitness, head over to everydaymeanseveryday.com. It's kind of like 75 hard, but way better, way more thought through, and tech enabled as well, so we can really help hold you accountable. So check that out. And until next time, don't forget, every day means every day.